pero luego cuando se nos hace rápido, no podía aprovecharlo de y tiene que pasar igual, porque ahora piensa
more opportunities to get that right because of playing against 10. But nothing changes with 10 or 11. When you have that amount of ball in the final third, it's always going to be about the final pass, the final decision or the finish. That is not going to change against 10 men.
When it comes to Real Sociedad, obviously they've lost a man now, but what did you make of them in that first half, given that they've been on the run that they have, Alex?
The second half is almost upon us here at Spotify Camp Nou, and it is currently goalless between Barcelona and Real Sociedad, but there has been one significant change, and that has been the sending off of Brais Méndez towards the end of the first period. It's very much an uphill struggle now for Real Sociedad, who have not got the best of results here at the Camp Nou in their recent history. We shall see if they make any changes for the second half to adjust for the absence of Brais Méndez. They had just a couple of sporadic chances in the opening stanza. Ataque Kubo effort, which hit the crossbar, the closest of them. Barca came close on several occasions, even had the ball in the back of the net. However, the offside position of Frenkie de Jong meant that that goal would not stand. Several passes from Ousmane Dembélé into a dangerous position, several shots from the Frenchman as well. Lewandowski has been causing some mischief in the Real Sociedad defence. So we shall see what lies in store. There's Matteo Alemany, perhaps not the busiest man during the winter transfer window. Financial fair play has limited things somewhat for Barcelona. It looks as if two changes are going to be made by La Real, as they will try and mix things up for the second half. A double switch made by Imanol Alguacil, which sees Ian Munoz come on in place of one of his teammates. Barrenechea, who scored against Rayo Vallecano this past weekend, will also come on. So two changes made by the Basque side. It's seemingly an unchanged side from Xavi. Oyarzabal and Diego Rica, the two players, have gone off. Not surprising that Oyarzabal would not last the entire 90 minutes, still on his return to full fitness after a long-term injury. Here's Frenkie de Jong. Second half is underway immediately. A looping ball over the top fails to find its way to Ousmane Dembélé. And the ball is with Alex Ramiro. He places the ball down. Real Sociedad have just got one draw from their last 30 visits to the Camp Nou. Scored 17, conceded 78. Here's de Jong. Well, this is a side in form. Remember, they have won their last 9 games in all competitions. Their last 5 in Liga Santander have seen Soloff on the score sheet. And they've won 6 in a row in the league. So good run of form for them, but they had their work cut out for them in the second half. That was Araujo, who was knocked over by Alexander Soloff. We saw a few more than gentle brushes in the opening period. Brais Méndez in particular was involved in frequent tangles with Lewandowski. They were giving as good as they got, but it was Busquets who was on the receiving end of the red card inducing foul. Ball knocked on. It's with Imanol Alguacil, who has decided to make those two changes at the interval. Players on the bench available for Barcelona: Franck Kessié, Iñaki Peña, Ferran Torres, Sergio Roberto, Marcos Alonso, Rafinha, Arnautenas, Jordi Alba, Bellerin, Eric Garcia and Ansu Fati. As we see more fouls here, the referee comes over to try and restore some order to proceedings. Well, Gavi, almost as ever, is involved. Just managed to calm down. Gavi ran into Elizondo. Elizondo grabs around the back of Gavi's neck. Gavi almost tried to rugby tackle him down. It was a real back and forth between those two players as Barca try and make their way down the right. Ball goes out. As if it came off Ousmane Dembélé, maybe the standout player in the first half, and he will be afforded a little more space with the sending off of Brais Mendes. Sergio Busquets. Line for Barca. We did see Marcos Alonso and Ansu Fati warming up at half-time. Ferran Torres as well. Certainly Ansu Fati has proven to be a game changer when coming on. Barca attack here, space on the right for Dembélé. Dembélé might try and cut this back. Plays in, nobody can reach it for Barca. And Araujo settles things down. We did see maybe a less attacking La Real than in recent games. Barca had the majority of the possession in the first half. This was the ball from Frenkie de Jong over to the right. Dembele's attempted delivery back in, maybe got a glancing touch from Pedri. Who cuts that back. De Jong into the area, headed down by Araujo, not quite finished off as it trickled towards goal. It was Jules Koundé who met it. It didn't have power or precision. It was on its way out as Ramiro gathers the loose ball up. Soloth runs into Araujo. Thrown down the line. Now Sociedad today without David Silva due to injury. It was a real blow, the biggest blow though, the sending off of Brais Mendes on 39 minutes. Araujo. Koundé, it remains goalless. Here comes a run into the area, Ramiro gets back on his line, and that one is drilled towards goal. Ousmane Dembélé goes for power. Ramiro gets a hand on it, and Barca take the lead as the ball finds its way inside the near post. Barca 1, Real Sociedad 0. It's Ousmane Dembélé who looked as if he was going to square that. He was given some space to get into the box. And he finishes off, belting that ball right-footed. Dembélé goes it alone, having been played through on the right channel. And Barca's persistence pays off. They take the lead just 7 minutes after the restart. And that is a big blow for La Real. They'd held on valiantly at the end of the first half. Well, Dembélé just went for power there. It hits the left hand of Ramiro, who wasn't sure if that was going across to Lewandowski or not. Things stacked against La Real. Play with that line of 5 at the back. Balde. Well, the noise levels rise at the Camp Nou. On the right. Here's a look. Well, no offside against Dembélé. Just beat the defender for pace. Got past the new arrival onto the field of play, Ian Munoz. From there, it was a race towards goal. Zubeldia came across to try and meet him. Proved to be in vain as Ousmane Dembélé scores a Copa del Rey goal. Barca's first against top-flight competition in this year's edition. Kunde. Araujo didn't spot the run from Balde. Certainly it was sighted by Elizondo. Dragged back there by Pablo Marin. He's been brilliant since coming up from the B team. Real player to watch out for. And it just shows the confidence that Imanol Alguacil has in the young players. Lots of the first 11 today are homegrown talents. Inside here, maybe a strike there, and it's a mistake going forward. Barrenechea was trying to find some space for himself and he was pulled down. Barrenechea scored his first league goal since the end of 2021 this past weekend against Rayo Vallecano. He was dragged back there by Busquets. Free kick in a good position. No David Silva to take it. No Oyarzabal either. How about maybe Take Kubo? One of those players who is standing over the ball. Gavi goes behind the barrier. So the wall is brought back, required 10 yards. Kubo and Marin both fancy this. Will it favour the left foot of Take Kubo? It will be Kubo, can't quite clear that wall as Araujo heads away. Thrown for La Real on the far side. They will have to be ambitious. They will have to look for an equaliser from somewhere. They will have just over half an hour in which to do so. Played down the line. It's Frenkie de Jong. expect these players to get very tired before the end. It's a chilly, windy night at Camp Nou. It's part of a packed schedule as well. Real Sociedad have Real Madrid on the horizon. A visit to the Santiago Bernabeu this coming weekend. To Balde. Touch takes him inside on Barrenechea, gets past Soloth as well. Lewandowski trying to flick that on. Barca players full of confidence at the moment. We've seen several of those back-heeled flicks. And we see La Real on the run here. It's a good counter-attack and it's a blatant pull back. It has to be a yellow card, and it is for Pedri. Oh, blatant from Pedri. It's something that Xavi has spoken about earlier this season, that maybe Barca were lacking. Just a little bit of the dark arts to pull back opposition players, commit a foul when the break is on. There's the free kick, played in. Barrenechea slips up, recovers to keep the ball in his side's possession. It's given away to Koundé, taken on by Take Kubo. Kubo in the area, low delivery in! And it's finished over the top by Alexander Soloth. Well, quite how he missed that is almost incredible. Soloth has been so deadly in recent games. He scored in 5 consecutive La Liga outings. May have been offside there when Balde was grabbing onto him. But it's a let-off there. It was nearly an equaliser for La Real. Just a reminder that the Churiardin are still in this game. Busquets. To the left, it caught Balde wrong-footed. Well, that's Soloth's chance, the second best for La Real so far. Over the top from Alexander Soloth, who you'd have put money on burying that, given his recent form. Araujo. So we hit the hour mark. It is Barcelona 1, Real Sociedad 0. Ousmane Dembélé with the goal. Real trying to break away. They do break away there until Araujo cuts that out. Trying to break here, plays to Soloth. Soloth will do well after the squeeze was applied by those 2 Barcelona defenders. Soloth has run into Christensen. Scandinavian sandwich. Busquets. Real Sociedad still keeping very disciplined with those 2 lines. Soloth has dropped in maybe more than he would have liked with the sending off of Bryce Mendes. the centre. Another attempt to break away from La Real. They got this far in the competition with a series of victories. They have been in the competition since the start. Beat Casalegas, beat Correa, and beat Logroñés before taking on top-flight opposition. Mallorca were bested 1-0 last time out. Knock on here, through to Gavi. Gavi goes down. There's a call for a penalty at the Camp Nou, and it's not going to be given. Seems that Gavi ran into the defender rather than vice versa. Kunde. On to Busquets. Pulling the strings in the midfield. He's being given more time on the ball. And on the right, that will go out of play. Barrenechea followed Gavi into the box. Gavi made sure to lean into Barrenechea. Ter Stegen, it holds up awkwardly for him, and his clearance goes into touch. Didn't want to risk playing that to the halfway line with that recent trend of goals from distance. One scored by Las Palmas and one scored by Jose Lumatos of Espanyol as of late. Back to Max Ramiro. There's been an extraordinary schedule for Real Sociedad in terms of big games. Athletic Club in the derby. Copa del Rey progress, Rayo Vallecano, who are also having a good season. Proved to be little challenge for them at the weekend. Barcelona, then Real Madrid. Play to Lewandowski. Knocked away here. Gavi goes down. And this time around, the referee does reach into his pocket. It's a yellow card for the Real Sociedad number 3, Martin Zubimendi. Grabs him round the arm, sticks a foot in front of Gavi as well. Barca trying to turn on the style here. They find a little bit of space for Lewandowski. He preferred to be on the end of a cross in, instead delivers one of his own. Busquets. Gavi. It's the first Copa del Rey game at the Camp Nou in front of a crowd since 2020. A meeting here against Sevilla last season. Looking at the crowd in place, and that ball hits the crossbar. Another chance for Barca to try and score a second. Still not completely away from La Real. Kunde to Gavi. Right-footed strike over the top. But it was Barca's turn to test the crossbar. fired at pace by Gavi. He just opened up his body too much as he side-footed. That was enough to lift it onto the bar. In the first half, we'd seen Take Kubo strike in similar conditions. Still to kill this game off, and that Sorloth chance a few minutes ago serves as a reminder that Real Sociedad could still level here. De Jong. Holds on to the ball. Just give him a little bit more time in possession, with Bryce Mendes not closing him down. That's where Frankie de Jong does some of his best work, just in front of Busquets. Picking up the passes in the midfield. And Frankie de Jong's gone towards the area here. Both he and Gavi were waiting for deliveries that never came. Dembélé. Busquets. Barca still in possession. Sociedad trying to keep discipline with their lines, and they get that interception away from Gavi. Sorloth powers his way through the defence. Tries to kickstart the counter, and it's squeezed back by Jules Koundé and Ronald Araujo. Busquets. Looked to maybe have taken that out on the right-hand side. It was spotted by the referee's assistant, Jules Koundé, in fact. This was Sorloth trying the breakthrough. He got past Lewandowski, got past Busquets. Tried to set the ball through Christensen to reach Barrenechea. That was Zubimendi's previous clearance. Back in possession. Balde. Over. Looks as if maybe Gavi was offside there, as it's punted away to prevent Frankie de Jong from finishing off. With discussions going on in the Real Sociedad back line as to how they should get themselves organised. Zubeldia was able to put that on to Pedri and then get the ball clear. Marc-Andre ter Stegen goes out for a stroll over onto the right. Got substitutes warming up. Filling Ferran Torres for Barca. About to come on though is Franck Kessié. Here's Kessié. Inside the technical area. His introduction will be imminent. Just after this attack, maybe from Dembélé. It's well recovered. Araujo. Left-hand side. And this ball back to Lewandowski. It's into the centre, comes back out. They're struggling at times to get the break together, La Real. Collects. He's had a couple of good chances tonight. He was the difference maker against Getafe this past weekend with his goal. He's left to run. Gavi tries to backheel it through. Appeal for handball is not given. And the referee doesn't even need to go to VAR on that one. We'll get a double substitution in a moment. Rafinha is also going to come on as well. That's Franck Kessié. Take to Gavi. Gavi turns. It's up from Balde. Balde's shot is closed down. No foul given. La Real have the opportunity to go upfield. Sorloth. Barrenechea pointed to where he wanted it. The momentum of the move keeps up, but Barca have players behind the ball now. Sorloth. Barrenechea. Taki Kubo shapes up. To Alejandro Balde, goes down slightly softly. Out by ter Stegen. We have a player down for Real Sociedad. Barca not kicking the ball into touch. Dembélé keeps on going. It's effectively 9 men for Real Sociedad at the moment as Dembélé tries to line up a shot. Dembélé with, in the end, a weak shot from outside the D. We will have that player attended to in the centre circle. Barrenechea remonstrates with the referee, asking why play was not stopped, why the ball wasn't kicked out. I see Pedri is suffering from some difficulties as well. And Pedri will be the player who limps off for Franck Kessié to come on. Rafinha will also be introduced. A chorus from the fans. Is that going to be Ousmane Dembélé who's withdrawn? Dembélé certainly going over to the sidelines. Well, it's Balde who's taken off for Rafinha to come on. Changes will be made by La Real as well. Ola Sagasti is on for Pablo Marin. Also get Take Kubo being withdrawn for Robert Navarro. Robert Navarro, who scored the only goal of the game against Mallorca, will try and work his Copa del Rey magic in the remaining 13 minutes of play at the Camp Nou. By Ramiro. So Barca will be waiting on the condition of Pedri for this coming weekend. Barcelona up in action against Girona in the Catalan derby on Saturday afternoon. Here's De Jong. Gavi. Was not sighted. Frank Kessié had made a sprint through the middle. Kessié turns nicely here, goes down on the edge of the tee. The referee sees nothing wrong with that as Real Sociedad hold on to possession. Amara trying to turn down the line unsuccessfully. But certainly if you want a player who's going to put in some effort in that final 12 minutes, here's Robert Navarro. Really coming to his own in this campaign. He says he didn't feel he was ready last year. Didn't feel he was at the same level as his teammates. He's a bulkier player now, a little bit more corpulent, stronger, more technical. He scored some important goals already for the Chorigordi. Dembélé slips that pass through. It's from Kessié who'll try and bring that back. Good defensive work from Robin Lenormand to block the ball out. Have a corner for Barcelona. Players wait inside the box, a couple wait outside the area as well. Gavi trots over to offer the option for a short corner. It's played to Rafinha. His delivery comes in, and the header goes wide. There's all sorts of grabbing going on. Dembélé's had one of his better games today. Ansu Fati is firmly a fan favourite since bursting onto the scene a couple of years ago. Small Noron, saved by Ramiro. He saw it late. Alex Ramiro gets down to meet that at his near post. About to have another corner, this time from the far side. Gavi holds it up, plays it back to his teammate Rafinha, who was just about onside. Gets under for Busquets. Just drawn out there was number 31, Ola Gasti. We are going to see Carlos Fernandez come on. He didn't come on when Ansu Fati was introduced for Barca. 5 minutes at the end of this Copa del Rey contest. Real Sociedad could be bowing out of the competition unless they can find a goal from somewhere. Another corner then for the Blaugrana. Their 8th of the game. They send it in towards the near post. It's parried away. Soloth was covering the near stick. Gavi to Busquets. Busquets. Delicate ball. It was met there in the centre. Ansu Fati and Balde were both going for it. The ball in. It was an attempt to head that away low. What's in there? Headed back out. It's come to Balde. Balde tries to shimmy his way inside. Could this be the break that Real Sociedad need? It's lifted over the top of Gavi. Play called back for some reason. We are going to have a substitution. Carlos Fernandez is on in place of Alexander Soloth. So Soloth is replaced. He had that chance at the start of the second half that he was not able to put away. One last roll of the dice is in order for La Real. Taken out. So 3 minutes remain at the Camp Nou. Kessie and Araujo both going for the ball, being held back by their respective markers. Given away here by Ter Stegen. This could be the chance that Real Sociedad need. Ter Stegen makes the save. It comes to the back post and it's put into the side netting. One late chance for La Real. Off a huge mistake at the back. It was careless from Marc-Andre Ter Stegen. Played it just out of the reach of Busquets. It was put back to Robert Navarro. His effort saved by Ter Stegen, left-handed. And Carlos Fernandez can only swipe into the side netting. Real Sociedad not quite dead and buried just yet. First corner for Real Sociedad in this game. Robert Navarro will take. Right-footed. Ter Stegen pushes this away. For another corner. Navarro. Tessier is going to clear Rafinha. Sets up Conte to keep going. Ramiro's off his line. There's a run onto the left. It's Ansu Fati at pace. Jinks inside, tries to show the ball to his teammate. Looks like Lewandowski's going to last the 90 minutes, and why not? He will be suspended at the weekend. Sees out that two-match ban. It's Fernandez. Araujo. So we will have 3 more minutes. Time added on at the Camp Nou, and we'll get a substitution. It will be Marcos Alonso who comes on in place of Andreas Christensen. Christensen goes off. He will not be available this weekend against Girona. Navarro. Joan Laporta is watching on. Held up on the edge of the box here. Real Sociedad will have another corner and one last roll of the dice as they try and find an equaliser to force this game into extra time. Header could be forward up with a strike there, parried away by Ter Stegen, and Rafinha is able to clear away. Another good chance for 10-man Real Sociedad to force this one into added time, but here come Barca on the break to try and put the finishing touches on a Copa del Rey victory. It's played across to Ansu Fati, tries to meet that, and it bounces wide, not the cleanest of contact made by Franck Kessié. Kessié just lightly grazes that, and as the ball is sent upfield, it looks as if the referee is going to call time on this contest. Over the top of Alonso. Here's Zubimendi with the nutmeg on Alonso. It's cleared away just about by Busquets. The counter-attack was nearly on there. The game is over. Barca progress in the Copa del Rey, eliminating Real Sociedad in the process. Real Sociedad, who are down to 10 men with the sending off of Bryce Mendes in the first period of play. That 9-game winning streak, the longest in Real Sociedad's history, comes to a close. It does so due